Wednesday, the 6th of April, 2022. Good morning and welcome to Talking Point here on WESN, the Content Capital. My name is Keaton Shaw, and as always, I remind you that today is a good day to have a good day. Welcome to the program, and this morning there is, a bit of a tense discussion that we will be having. It's in relation to allegations made by the opposition leader with regards to the government spying on citizens, including members of the government's own cabinet. Adding to that, later on, we will get into another discussion with Karen Nunes-Teixeira, who joins us this morning. But let me introduce my co-host, colleague, and good friend, Mr. Sean Michael Small. Good morning, Sean.
Good morning, Keaton. And yes, today is also a good day to have some interesting questions with regards to ethics, and there's continuations of what we discussed yesterday, but we might not have time for that because we already had a full slate of points to talk about today, including the situation with Pegasus, which I think, unfortunately, will be similar to many other situations where there's only so much that we will know, and it just leaves me frustrated. But I'll save that for when we actually get into the discussion.
Well, you can pause on that for now, because also joining us this morning via Zoom, as mentioned before, is the former Minister of Finance and Attorney at Law, Ms. Karen Nunes-Teixeira. Good morning, Karen.
Good morning, Keaton. Good morning, Sean. And good morning to your viewers as usual. Happy Wednesday. You know, they call it Happy Hump Day. I didn't quite understand why, but that's, I guess, is because you've reached the middle of the month, so you're middle of the week. So you're about to reach towards the end, the middle of the week. So
well,
Wednesday.
At first, when I heard Hump Day, I misinterpreted it until somebody explained it as well.
I don't want to hear interpretation.
So somebody explained the same thing you said, Karen, in relation to the middle of the weekend, and I was like, oh yes, that makes sense.
Different kind of good day, Keaton. Different kind of good day.
Anyway, folks, welcome to the program, and we thank you for joining us this morning. And though we have smiles on our faces, we also have concerns. Now, in relation to the opposition leader's allegations, we will get into that in a moment. But just to update you, the Prime Minister yesterday at the Diplomatic Centre in St. Anne's received the report, the Independent Committee's report into the island-wide blackout that occurred over a month ago. Now, it was 42 days after it occurred. February 16th is when we experienced that island-wide outage for hours. Now, the chairman of the committee was Professor of Electrical Engineering, Chandraban Sharma, PhD. He presented it to the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister has stated that he will make the report public. Whether that will be the entire report or just parts of the report, we're not entirely sure, as mentioned before in relation to other reports, but he hasn't given a date as to when he will release that information. I suppose that he will review it himself, he will have discussions with his cabinet members, and perhaps, if need be, solutions to ensure that this does not happen again. He will discuss that with TNTech and all the necessary agencies, then come out, present the report and state, well, these are the solutions and we are already putting them in place, we're already working on it. You can probably expect something like that to happen. But, as I said, 42 days after the blackout occurred, the report was handed over to the Prime Minister yesterday at the Diplomatic Centre in St. Anne's. Sean, very quickly, your comments on this. 42 days after, it took quite a long time. Is it due to the investigation itself or to the details or the length of the investigation?
Well,
or do you think that once more we have had a serious lag in trying to get to the bottom of the situation?
Well, the problem with power grids, from what I understand, I mean, there was a famous outage in the United States where one small part took down a significant chunk of the northeast seaboard of the United States, right? So we had the initial theory. I suspect it was just to hunt down that lead, make sure that nothing else happened, which means that they probably had to check, a significant amount of the power grid to be sure. Because I'm not an electrician or an expert on these matters, I can't say that the time, 40 plus days, is that excessive? Maybe not. You want it to be thorough. You don't want, oops, we made a mistake, we forgot something, whatever. Mm-hmm. What I don't necessarily care for is, maybe it wasn't. Was it just the press conference primarily to announce this? Because telling us that you have the report is not really announcing much of anything. Now, I get it. Yes, on one hand, you have to have the cabinet look over it, etc., etc. On the other hand, the truth is not going to change whether the cabinet has a chance to digest it or not. And more importantly, you know, to give us drips and drabs, like, so you just want to say that you have it so that people will get off your back. Well, we don't care if you have it. We care if we can see what the report says. And whatever your recommendations are to move forward, etc., is separate to what happened. And why exactly can't we know what happened now? Why do we have to wait? You have the report already. What is the holdup? This is not a national security issue, I would think, directly.
Well, in a sense,
yes, it is. But at the same time, I'm pretty sure if somebody really wanted to, they could figure out a way to damage our electrical system on their own. They don't need your report to do it. So
stop putting ideas out there.
And Keaton, I think I tend to agree with Sean more that 42 days in the grand scheme of, especially in our history of dealing with reports on any matter, is not unreasonable. And they really, I suspect also the report has recommendations in it already. Because what's the point of just giving me a report without giving me solutions to avoid that similar situation? But I also agree with what Sean has said too. You have the report, you announce that, but what's the point of announcing the report when you're not releasing the report? And that's been a practice of this government, I find in particular, of having reports done in like various committees and not releasing the report to the public. And, you know, we are the public. I think we're entitled to know, and that doesn't encourage the confidence. But I don't think 42 days in the grand scheme of things is unreasonable, and I suspect it does include recommendations. The question is, will it ever be released? Or is the Prime Minister hoping that after a while, there's so many other things going on that will take it over? We'll say, hey, oh, forget what happened to that report.
Perceived corruption conflict is just as bad as actual conflict.
Just
that
as
is,
risky
right,
as actual conflict.
Right, so remove conflict, go to cover-up. Perceived cover-up is just as bad for a politician as actual cover-up. Ironically, it's not necessarily bad for us. If the cover-up is just perceived and not real, then it's fine for us. What I don't understand is, for politicians, perceived cover-up is just as bad as actual cover-up for their political career, for their political future, and yet we still have it. You know, it's not just a PNM thing, but we still have it from our political class.
Well, we're in the year 2022, and politics is really a game of its own. But as we always tout about the nation being a democracy, it's amazing that we are starved of transparency and integrity, that we as a nation are still in this age having to protest in order to get answers, having to cry out for some sort of transparency that will allow us to not remain in the dark, pardon my pun, but to also shed some light on the issues that we are facing. I mean, at the end of the day, we, the citizens, are the one that keeps the nation moving, we're the one that keeps the steam rolling, and we deserve to know where our money is going, exactly the services and the infrastructure, the quality of the infrastructure in relation to our power grid, but just generally all around. It's rather unfortunate that in this day and age, this modern world that we live in, we are striving, very, very much striving for first world identity, yet we still practice a third world mindset. And that doesn't go for the citizens alone, that goes as well for the government who feeds us that. Anyway, let's move on now in relation to the allegations made by opposition leader Kamla Persad-Bissessor at the United National Congress's Monday night forum, in which she indicated that the government, or she says a whistleblower, has confirmed to her that there is evidence to suggest that the Prime Minister and the government, by extension, are spying on the citizens and senior members of senior office holders in society, as well as his own member of cabinet. So we do have a clip from the opposition leader. I will warn you, it is a bit long, but bear with us. This is very serious, and you need to hear every word. Let's take a look at this.
Some time ago, I had warned you all about the Rowley government acquiring the Israeli software Pegasus program to hack into citizens' WhatsApp communications and other communications. Tonight I can confirm that government did in fact acquire this software, and they have been illegally spying on citizens. Various social media platforms, WhatsApps, emails, and so on. A whistleblower has provided me with information regarding this widespread electronic spying. I've also been provided with names of persons who are being spied upon. However, we have been alerting persons privately because of safety concerns. The list of persons being spied on include members of the media, reporters and editors, members of the judiciary, senior judiciary and magistrates, state agencies spying on their own board appointees, trade unions, members of government, yes, they are spying on their own MPs and senators, and of course, they must be spying on the opposition. We know that. It's not the first time. Also being illegally monitored are members of the business community, from the chambers of commerce, lawyers associated both with the UNC and the PNM, and of course persons in other political parties. They are also accessing the media, the emails and text messages for these persons and storing it. So remember, every email message in all folders within these persons' email accounts, they have been accessing them and storing them. I would ask you to delete it. They access your WhatsApp by sending you a message, and when you click on it, the software infects your phone. They can read your WhatsApp messages in real time, as you are sending and receiving them. And therefore, I am advising all of you, always delete your WhatsApp messages. Delete them. Once you're done, delete. So they can catch it in real time and, of course, store it. But if you delete as you go along, it gives you a bit more safety. This is being done with the assistance of police officers. I know there are many great, good police officers, but we know that some officers who are closely affiliated with certain high members of government, they are assisted in this task. Some of these officers were handpicked and placed into positions to conduct this illegal spying. In one instance, a police constable, who is a friend with a minister, has been put to monitor WhatsApp messages, a police constable.
As I mentioned before, serious allegations, especially the Pegasus software. Now, the Prime Minister did respond, although yesterday when contacted, the Minister of National Security refused to refute the claims made by the opposition leader. In fact, he went on to criticize the opposition leader.
Oh, so he didn't, because, I mean, it's framed that he rubbished the claims by the opposition leader, but he didn't actually...
He did not confirm nor deny that this is where we have to see through it. He did not confirm nor deny the government's actions. He just simply, again, went after the opposition leader. Now, again, something that we would expect. The Minister of Communications in the Office of the Prime Minister, Simon de Norberca, also refuted the claims, but said, at this point in time, I cannot confirm nor deny. The best person to do that will be the Minister of National Security.
So let me just say that the issue that we, the public, have is what is the truth? Because we have claims from the opposition leader and we have claims from the government. So the question is, what is the actual intention of the act? It seems as though the act itself is not being denied. Mm-hmm. Is the spying legal monitoring of people under suspicion, or is it political monitoring? One of the interesting things is we don't know who is being monitored.
Well, the Prime Minister at a public meeting in Digmarton last night confirmed that the government did acquire the spyware in order to equip the Strategic Services Agency in order to protect the state. Now, I will give you some quotations from the Prime Minister's speech last night in a moment, but first, Karen, I'd like to ask you, based off of what you know, is spying for any forms upon the citizens legal?
Yeah, well, okay, using the word spying, but there's an act called the Interception of Communications Act. Mm-hmm. And there is provision for what they call, well, first of all, they're authorized officers who would be the Commissioner of Police, the head of the Defense Force, and the head of the Strategic Services Division. they are authorized to conduct monitoring, and monitoring includes listening to, monitoring, viewing, reading, recording over a telecommunication without the knowledge of the person. So there is provision for that to be done. And you have to be authorized. And the reason, two ways that it can be done. The authorized person can do it, or but cannot use it for criminal proceedings if he doesn't get a ex parte warrant, or he can get an ex parte warrant. And the reasons are for the reasons of national security, for safeguarding the economy of the country, in consultation with or in agreement with some international mutual agreement provisions, and also in relation to any act that would carry a penalty of 10 years or more, or carry that penalty. Those are the kinds of acts, or those are the kinds of activities which an ex parte warrant by a judge can be given, or an authorized officer can do it. And every country has that. I mean, even though Kamala Bissessar spoke about the government, she must remember in 2011, the scandal with Reshma Ramnarine, who she appointed as director of Security Intelligence Agency. And I mean, it was a fiasco about a fiasco. Mm-hmm. The young woman had 4 years experience working as a technician in a department, mm-hmm. and that she had no training in the field of security or intelligence, and they fired about 12 mm-hmm. people, and put her in the position as director of the Security Intelligence Agency, which is the same thing that they do. All governments do that, the FBI, CIA. And the other thing I want to say, because when that issue had been raised when the other administration, the UNC administration, came into office, that was also raised then, and it was said that judges, lawyers, everything were being spied on. Now, my understanding is it's not that all these people are being spied on. They are a group of people who would, for some reason, from national security information, are being attracted the attention of the government, and they need information. So anyone who calls that person, their conversation would be recorded. It's not that that person is being monitored. It is the person who they're calling that is being monitored. So every call to them, whether it is their doctor, their lawyer, their friend, whatever, those conversations are being monitored, but those people are not being monitored. So I find it a little bit disingenuous. And also too, yes, the Prime Minister did say they had the equipment, spy equipment. And if you're going to do the job, you want to do the job the best you can. The question is the real issue is the allegation that she's making that all manner of people mm-hmm. are being spied for,
Karen, if I can
for reasons that do not comply with the legislation.
Just before I go to what the Prime Minister stated, just very quickly, is there any obligation on the part of the Cabinet, because the Prime Minister has acknowledged that the spyware, the software, is indeed purchased for the use of the SSA. But is there any obligation on the part to inform the citizens, or is it that because it falls under the remit of national security, that it will be a conflict if they were to inform the citizens?
Not only would it be a conflict, it would in fact undo the whole intention, because what you're trying to there are two things. She's raised an issue that has gone way beyond the remit that the Act allows, okay? So yes. That's one conversation. Mm-hmm. But it would be completely frustrated if I knew that my WhatsApp and my emails and my telephone conversations were being monitored. You remember, look at in America, for example, so just as by way of with the mafia, you realize anytime they were having their so-called conversations, they knew they were being monitored. Mm-hmm. So they would go out in the street and hopefully have those conversations without their videos. Remember that Teflon King? Can't remember his name now. Mm-hmm. But eventually got caught. But that's how they operate. And if the government has reason, for national security reasons, for the state of the economy, which is what the legislation says, you cannot get their knowledge, and you cannot say it in the cabinet, because if you don't know who in the cabinet is friend, it might be somebody very well in the cabinet that you might have to be monitoring, because you might be very well or a member of family of someone in the cabinet. So you can't release that information. The question that arises is, has the government gone beyond the remit? All what she said about how they're doing it, I suppose that's how it's done. And I can tell you, I don't know if you remember, but it was in the papers, and I will just say I know it as a fact, that the DPP had said when the UNC administration was in office that his conversations were being monitored and listened to.
Yes.
And that, in fact, his meetings in the, where you have your meetings in your main office, your conference room, he said, I believe he actually said that they were using from another building the signal would be unbroken. So would go into the office, and they could listen to what he was saying and who he was talking to. And when it came time to determine whether it was true, it was in the papers, he did not allow the state agency to come and do the brushing or whatever they call it. He brought in an independent body, and they confirmed that there was spyware in his brain. That was what was alleged.
Yes,
Let us not play smart with stupidness. What she's saying is just something that her office probably would have done. But all I'm saying is, are they persons who should be monitored? And secondly, when she says you are being monitored, is it that you are being monitored or somebody is being monitored, and all the persons who speak to them, the conversation of that person with the person that's being monitored is being recorded? That is a big difference. And that is what was said, because I think when the Chief Justice himself, when it came out, when they were in office, you are being monitored, you are being spied on. The Chief Justice came out and said, no, this is wrong. But is it that the Chief Justice is being monitored? Or is it when the Chief Justice calls someone, that person who is being monitored, that conversation is monitored? Well, what's the purpose then if you can't, national security, do that? That's in our interest.
Just another thing to consider. Claims are being made. We don't know who. So when you say journalists, is it that it's one journalist and that is the basis of the claim of journalists?
Yeah.
Is it that it's primarily a journalist and that journalist's colleagues because there's suspicion that they're involved in something? And that is the term for journalists.
Now,
if it is the case where it is multiple journalists from multiple media houses that are not connected to each other, then that is a whole different story.
Well, I'm glad that you actually brought that up, because legally speaking, you can make an argument in this day and age exactly what a journalist is. I mean, even the Media Association of Trinidad and Tobago was having a debate over the definition of a journalist. And bear in mind, though you can take the opposition leader's words at first instance to mean exactly what she's trying to say, again, there is a lot of definitions that go behind certain terms that she would have used. But I'd like to quote from you now what the Prime Minister stated last night at his meeting in Diego Martin, and I quote, "Because in a state, in protecting what is the state, you are required on an ongoing basis to be concerned about the security of the state. So you do have machinery, personnel and equipment to equip the state, to know what is happening to the state, what is threatening the state, to know what you can do. And today in this technological world, if the government has brought equipment for the SSA to be able to know what the gang leaders and the criminals are doing in this country because they do it on the phone, the best tool for the criminals in this country, anywhere in the world for that matter, is that cell phone system. So Mrs. Prasad-Bissessar wants us to stay out of that." End quote. That is, so again, I will say, the Prime Minister acknowledged that they do have the spyware. However, he said the claims made by the opposition leader are totally and completely untrue. The Prime Minister has refuted the claims. Now,
What claims did he refute?
the claims that
What-
they were spying on magistrates, that they were spying on journalists, he actually
Union
refuted
leaders,
it. Yes.
businessmen,
He
political
actually
opponents.
said that he was not. Did he actually say that they're not being spied on? He
He
spied
said-
on the criminal elements.
said
and
the
criminal
bottom
elements are
line-
not only those in the jail, but actually the businessmen are probably the ones that he should really be spying on. Did he say they're not being spied
and
on?
that is fair.
No.
That is fair. But I will tell you that the Prime Minister stated the bottom line is it was all a lie. It was all a lie. He didn't go into detail, exact detail, word by word, but he said the bottom line is it was all a lie.
The implied statement is that the motivation ascribed to the spying and the scope of what it's being described is potentially a lie. The motivation he's saying is a lie. The scope he's saying is potentially a lie. Because it might be true that there might be a businessman or two, there might be a journalist or two, there might be a magistrate or two who potentially has allegations of corruption or what have you that needs to be looked into. And this has deemed to be the suitable way to look into it. He has not even refuted the fact that his own members of his own government, I believe, is under monitoring, as also the opposition. I will say this though, it's very interesting, and I might be going a bit too far here, reaching a bit too far. But what if former Commissioner of Police Gary Griffith was speaking a half-truth when he said that the government had a certain amount of resources that they wanted to investigate the opposition? What if this was essentially the government saying, okay, we have to investigate all these people here for whatever. Government, opposition, whatever. And he just selectively wants to use the opposition side as an example.
I think that you made a very good point when utilizing the word scope. Because again, the Prime Minister stated, the Prime Minister admitted it was being used to monitor the activities of criminals and law-abiding citizens. So by him already using that term, law-abiding citizens, if you are indeed part of any criminal activity, whether it be corruption, whether it be money laundering, theft, murder, the Prime Minister stated that it is used to spy on the activities, well, not spy. Again, I should be careful in what I'm stating.
Monitor
the activities of criminals.
Mm-hmm.
Once again...
What is wrong with that?
Again, I am not saying that anything is wrong with that. In no way am I saying that anything is wrong with that. I'm simply stating that the claims made by the opposition leader, and she says she can confirm, which tells me that she has evidence. Because again, though she is a politician, before she was a politician, she was a practicing attorney at law. And I would think, or at least hope, by her using those words, that she understands that there are certain meanings to those words, not only by speaking on a political platform, but legally as well. And I'm hoping that she pushes, if she has evidence, if she does indeed have evidence, that she will come out with the evidence. Go ahead, Karen.
Yeah, because you know what is troubling me about that whole thing? How are they going to intercept? But they say so in the legislation. They say they monitor, they listen, they record without your knowledge. That is the meaning of intercept. If the FBI does it, every advanced country, how are you? I know the question arises, is a person's being monitored not for the reasons provided for any act? Are they being monitored for reasons that fall outside that? Now, that is the issue. And what I took a little exception to is the Prime Minister talking about, it's easy to pull about the criminals in jail because everybody knows with the cell phone. But he very well knows that many of the people who are involved in money laundering, in the drug trade in this country, which is dealing with the economic well-being of the country and national security of the country, many of them are persons who should be monitored, whose conversations should be listened to. And that is what the law allows for. And I see every country allows for it. It's the question, and her saying, how are they doing it? Well, yeah, so how are they going to do it? They have to do it somehow. And the more advanced technology with encryption and so on, they must have a way to unencrypt or de-encrypt a message. That is all good and proper. They can go to a judge ex parte, and if they can convince a judge that this is a person who requires monitoring and interception, they could get the order from the judge. So my issue is that the Prime Minister said, yes, we're using a very sophisticated thing, and that's what he should be using, because what's the point? They having something better than you. Secondly, that it is doing it for the state national security and the well-being of the country. That's exactly why the legislation is in place. The issue I have is the scope of breath of persons that she says are being spied on. That is my issue. And to go to cabinet and tell them, you go to cabinet and tell them, you might as well go and tell the persons who are being monitored.
Well, Karen, what I want you to do, just hold that thought. Sean has some comments. I have some comments as well. We are going to take a break here, ladies and gentlemen, on Talking Points. But when we return, we will continue the conversation. As I said, there's a lot to unpack in this. When we return, we will speak about another angle of this. Stay tuned to Talking Points here on WESN, the Content Capital.
Say hello to the newest way to access eye care support. Say hello to Ferrera Optical Virtual Care. For the first time in TNT, you can now connect from the convenience of your home with our team of eye care professionals online. Need guidance in a vision problem or adapting to new eyewear? Book a virtual visit via FerreraOptical.com using our smart scheduler, and we'll take care of the rest. Ferrera Optical Virtual Care, connecting with you wherever you are.
Burning questions, urgent topics, welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One on One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One on One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN Content Capital.
On the next episode of We Comedy Jam.
I'm married, by the way. I've been married for a while. He's a fair-skinned guy. You know, he's not technically white, but I didn't know that when we started dating. I thought I was getting into the 1%. But no!
You would not believe what this young lady doing. She is sleeping on my shoulder. So I did what any other gentleman would do, because I'm a gentleman. I said, hey, what are you doing? If you want a comfortable rest, you should lay on my lap, you know what I mean?
We Comedy Jam, Mondays at 8 p.m. only on WESN Content Capital.
People really want to know, what about me? Where do I fit? Yes. What is in the ride for me in terms of a better Trinidad and Tobago? And I'm pleased to shed some light on that.
The purpose of bail is to ensure your attendance at court. That's it. It is not punitive. It is not rehabilitative.
We, the police officers, we are professional, and we are here for whenever the survivor is ready to come forward.
We have the right to private and family life, the right to religious freedoms and beliefs and thoughts and expression. But these rights are not absolute. Certain rights can be limited.
The law is to govern the whole, it's for all of us in public.
Today I'm excited because we're talking about medicine the Gray's way. Yes, we're talking to Dr. Raquel Supir from Gray's Medical.
Because now I realized, like, the secret, the key. If you give somebody the body they want or the confidence that they're looking for, and you make sure that they know that they have to work really hard to keep it, guess what? They're going to be really healthy.
Tell us a little bit about stretching and the importance of what it is or what it does to your body.
It is really important to stretch your muscles. You can stretch before and after working out. It can limit or reduce your injury. Also able to improve your flexibility.
What's up, Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN Content Capital.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix-It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix-It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
If you live with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 and has to self-isolate at home, take care of them from a distance and reduce their movement around the house. Give them space, a designated space, and open those windows. If you have to be in contact, mask up, both of you. If you work, stay home from work and don't go out, not even to the grocery or pharmacy. And remember, no visitors allowed. Limit the contact to limit the spread.
The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
Yeah, so it's far from the only private company which sells commercial spyware in this manner, but it's fair to say now that it's the most infamous. Pegasus software, which is their flagship software, appears to be being misused on a vast scale. So NSO clients, as you say, have been linked to a list of more than 50,000 phone numbers. This includes activists, journalists, business executives, politicians. Of course, NSO is denying all allegations that it's been facilitating human rights abuses. It says it only sells its technology to governments which have been approved by Israel, and this is for the express purpose, they say, of helping stop terrorism and criminality.
So how does Pegasus get into your phone, and what does it do once it's actually in your phone?
Older iteration actually relied on something called spear phishing, which is where you receive a text message or an email. It's got a malicious link. You inadvertently click the link and it installs this software. Now, though, it's able to reach phones using something called a zero-click attack, which is as scary as it sounds. It means it can exploit a vulnerability in one of the apps on your phone without any interaction from yourself. So we don't know all the examples of how it might use this, but one has been WhatsApp. Pegasus has been known to infect a phone via a WhatsApp call, and you don't even have to pick up the call for it to infect your phone. App developers are obviously constantly trying to patch these vulnerabilities, but they're always playing catch up. And where these attacks don't succeed, you can, of course, install Pegasus wirelessly if you're near the target, or even steal a mobile phone and install it that way as well. Once it's there, it has root access to your phone. That means it can do pretty much anything. It can read your messages, it can read your emails, it can look at all the photos, videos, and other media on your device. It can access your contacts. It knows where you are because of GPS, and probably the scariest for me is the fact that it can listen to your microphone and it can turn on your camera without you knowing. Not only that, it can read the keys you're typing, so it can read your keystrokes and will know every password you're typing into your phone. Well, the bad news is that it's next to impossible to detect by yourself, and even with a team of cybersecurity experts, it's going to be very difficult. Your phone doesn't display any symptoms as if it was sick. It doesn't slow down or show any sort of sign that Pegasus is there, and researchers actually believe the latest version of Pegasus might exist in your phone's temporary memory, so it's RAM rather than its hard drive. So if you go sniffing around in its files trying to find the malware, you're not going to find it there because it's on a temporary file. If it's uninstalled, it won't leave any trace behind it. It's quite unclear at the moment what methods the Pegasus project team have been using to figure out which mobile numbers on the list have been linked to to verify that they've got Pegasus on them. They must be using careful monitoring of data being sent from the phone via the internet. At this point, if you want to get rid of it, want to get sure you don't have Pegasus, the only way to do so is get rid of your phone and change your mobile number. According to Citizen Lab, even a factory data reset of your phone does not remove it.
So, an infamous software that has many controversies internationally, including it has been tied to suspected spying of Saudi Arabia on Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, as well as being used, it's accused to be involved in the murder of Jamal Khashoggi in Turkey, that famous murder case where the journalist was killed at, I believe, the embassy. However, be that as it may, it's also technically only allowed to be sold to legitimate governments. It has been purchased, among others, the United States, and the use of it has not necessarily been outlawed. Now, with that said, I do have to ask a couple questions here with regards to the claims that were made, and then the counterclaims. The Prime Minister seems to be talking about, well, why is she defending someone like Faris? Why is this thing being political? You know, it's almost like if he's saying, what do you think that we're going to be spying on you for? Because if you're innocent, you wouldn't have anything to fear. However, I must remind people there was a small scandal. There was a small scandal during the presidency of one Richard Nixon. It didn't amount to much, only ended his presidency. And that was basically...
It didn't amount to much?
It didn't amount to much, just ended his presidency. And that was basically a break-in of the Democratic National Convention in order to photograph files and wiretap phones. So the scandal caused the toppling of a government of the then leader of the free world in the middle of the Cold War. And that was just wiretapping an office. This is not going into personal cell phones, which you could argue might be a step even further because they'll be monitoring all sorts of personal correspondence. So the stakes of the matter, I think, to remind people, and maybe this is when the Prime Minister makes statements of that, dismissing the claims. It's not something that we could easily dismiss, even if we don't necessarily agree with the leader of the opposition. It has to be taken seriously.
Now, I just like to say a couple of things in relation to that. First of all, I go back to the opposition leader being an attorney at law. And though she's a politician, again, I stress that the words that she used has very powerful meaning. And it may not mean much to the ordinary citizens, but from a legal standpoint, it certainly is rather strong. Now, the opposition leader says she can confirm this. I'd like the opposition leader to come out with hard evidence rather than just words. I would appreciate that. But adding to that, the Prime Minister refuted the claims in a way stating that all that was said is untrue. He did not go directly word for word, allegation for allegation. He just made a blanket statement. But he went on to say it was for use of monitoring criminal elements within Trinidad and Tobago in order to protect the state. And that's all fine and fair. That's reasonable because, as pointed out by Karen, there is an act that provides for that. However, I do have a couple concerns. First of all, in terms of monitoring criminal elements, does the powers or the scope allow, if you are not proven guilty but you are presumed to be part of criminal activity, or if there is evidence to suggest, where does the line stop? Is it that you are presumed? Or is it that there is evidence to suggest? That's one thing. Secondly, how long now have we acquired this technology? And has that technology been to our benefit? You said that you have been using it to monitor criminal activities and in order to protect the state. But has it bared any fruit? Have we seen any results from its use? Have any criminals been charged? Have any gang leaders or gang members been charged? Have they been brought to justice? And has evidence been used through the software in order to prosecute them? I think that will also be beneficial for the public to be aware of, rather than just stating that we're using it in order to monitor criminal elements and protect the state. I think it goes a lot more than just that explanation. Karen, your thoughts?
Well, I think what is unfortunate is that the Prime Minister chose to say that they're monitoring criminal elements. What constitutes a criminal element? And that's part of the kind of political speak that politicians indulge in order to let the public come on their side. Because a lot of the persons, I am confident, that are involved in activities that are a threat to our national security and our economy as a democratic society are not the person in the prison. Yes, they are part of it, but they are just at the tail end. But it is the very persons that the former Prime Minister Kamla Prasad mentioned. I am quite positive a lot of them are businessmen. Mm-hmm. It may be. I would not deny that it could be members of that cabinet. I would not deny that and members of judiciary. I don't think we must not close our eyes. One thing I learned after being in politics for a little while: nothing and no one surprises me. I can assure you that. Mm-hmm. There are probably one person or two persons that I have had dealings with who hold senior positions, regardless of where. I'm not talking about in cabinet or government, but in so-called institutions that do not have other agenda. So My concern to end is that I don't think he denied that it was being used. I don't think he denied that it was used for national security purposes, which is a legitimate use under the legislation. I don't think he did that. My concern is that who he targeted as being the persons being monitored. And I have a suspicion that it is unfortunate that he did that because, again, it's going back to zeroing in on a certain group in society when very well they are not the ones who are the real criminals, but the persons who they should be monitoring. But I do not know what the situation is. And I believe that Kamala Prasad does owe it to us to let us know some of the names of the persons whose conversations have been monitored illegally, because you can be authorized to do it.
Yes,
you are authorized to monitor conversations.
This goes back to something that I've been saying before. And to give you an example, United States Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, 15 members, 8 are broken up to a minority and a majority member from 4 different committees, as well as 7 more members, 4 from the majority, 3 from the minority. So it's basically 8 of the majority party, 7 from the minority party, almost a 50-50 split, to have oversight on intelligence services, because much of what they do can't be reported to the public. Similar situation could be considered here. Why is it that the opposition is from the outside looking in, right? Because basically Kamala is potentially spilling the beans here, right, on certain things that should not probably be spilled, potentially, if they are legitimate criminal investigations. And including the opposition party in a formal way will then put the responsibility on them further not to do something like this, as well as it allows us to say, opposition, is everything good here? All they have to do is say yes, and we could say, well, okay, we could trust the situation a little bit more, even though we don't know as much.
Well, there again, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you understand that in no way are we pushing back on the opposition leader's claims. What we are showing you is that there are holes to the claims, and Karen even explained the act so that you have a better understanding, which again, the opposition leader could have done. Again, stress that she's an attorney at law. But Sean, another individual has actually come into the forefront of the discussion, and that's the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith. Yes. He supported the claims made by the opposition leader about a junior officer being involved in monitoring individuals. He claimed that when he was commissioner, he was being harassed by the Minister of National Security, Fitzgerald Hines, to have a junior officer handle sensitive intelligence and intercept communication equipment. He went on to state that he was not the whistleblower. He made it clear that he was not the whistleblower, but he noted that a few weeks ago, he'd confirmed that the Minister of National Security allegedly harassed him when he was indeed a Commissioner of Police in order to appoint a constable to be in charge of the TTPS intercept and intelligence communication equipment. He says, and I quote, "But I resisted. Obviously, you cannot put a junior constable to be in charge of this. Also, this constable was a very close friend to the ally of the Minister of National Security." He said the Deputy Commissioner of Police, who was head of intelligence and investigation, was McDonald Jacob, was also very concerned about the situation with the junior officer, and Jacob made the change to ensure the man didn't have control of the equipment. But Gary Griffith claims the situation changed when his contract ended and the man got control of the equipment. Minister of National Security Fitzgerald Hines said the TTPS is an independent body and will appoint who they need to appoint in order to head these things, saying that the government is not yet involved, although there is an argument against that in itself.
Again, I would just like to point out, Gary said the government, so he claims, wanted him to spy on the opposition. The opposition is the one that claimed the government was spying on its own members. So if I'm to take non-government...
But you know what I do understand?
Well, hold on. If I'm to take non-government claims, right, to be true, then Gary is leaving out the part where they probably also asked him to spy on themselves, on the government as well.
The thing is that...
But it doesn't matter who they're spying on. If it is a person who is a threat to our national economy or to our national security, then it doesn't matter. And it can very well be, I'm not saying it is because I do not know, but but it can very well be members of cabinet because they have the power to do it. Why close your eyes to it? And if the opposition's role is to bring things to the attention of the public, well, didn't what's his name, former Minister of National Security under administration, bring a picture of a church for Patrick Manning about this church being built? What? This is their role. This is their responsibility. And I don't think we should take umbrage to that. So the question remains, are they spying on who are they looking at, and are those authorized? It could be opposition, it could be cabinet. We don't know. Because there's a lot of crime in this country, and a lot of it is white-collar crime. A lot of it is money laundering. A lot of it is the drug trade. And the people who are involved in that have to be at the upper echelons and in the business community.
I am not saying that Kamala's claims are totally lies and she should not say what she's saying. My concern is that if you have evidence, then why is this matter being pursued politically and not through criminal investigative avenues, which would be more appropriate because of the severity? I don't know what this does to any potential criminal proceedings by stating things publicly. She did not give details, to be fair, right? So this is not, I don't necessarily care for it to be played out on a political stage, not something of this importance. So if this is not just a smoking gun, but there's fire there, I would like to see more than just political gamesmanship and one-upmanship. With regards to the commissioner, I think, okay, the former commissioner, him weighing in now, to me...
It seems a little odd that he's weighing in now.
A little convenient.
Yeah, it does.
But I'll just like to point one more thing, to shift this in a different direction. We had Clyde Eldord on Monday, and he said part of the reason why he thinks government should continue to own TSCT is because it was important to national security.
Yes.
By controlling part of the telecommunications, it's easier to monitor. With this program, the implication is you don't need to own TSCT to monitor telecommunications anymore. Could it be, this is pure speculation on my part, could it be that part of the willingness of government now to maybe divest itself of TSCT, or at least the possibility of it happening, is because they have the capability and they don't need TSCT anymore?
I think what you're stating is that in one sense the government is diversifying itself. So bear that in mind. But again, ladies and gentlemen, understand this. It is legal for the government to monitor. It is not illegal.
Who has oversight?
Who has oversight?
Who has oversight?
And what is the scope? What is the scope? But with all that, hold on. With all that we've discussed this morning, we've spent the last hour discussing this. We've mentioned what the opposition leader claimed. We've also mentioned the Minister of National Security, as well as the former Commissioner of Police and the Prime Minister. We've mentioned the act. We've gone into all of that. Let's stop repeating ourselves now. At the end of the day, one big issue remains. And unfortunately, we must recognize it.
Two issues.
Well, in my opinion, this is the most major issue, is that regardless of all that we've discussed, do you, the citizens, trust the government? Do you, the citizens, trust what the Prime Minister is stating? But also, do you believe what the opposition leader is stating? At the end of the day, it's you, the citizen, that must be concerned. And do you feel any safer as to what has been now made public?
This is why, ultimately, regardless of who is right or wrong in this scenario, it exposes a vulnerability. The government alone should not have oversight of intelligence gathering, particularly when it's not as though we have to worry about some evil empire next door. Who is this being directed to? It's directed to criminal elements who are all internal, and they should have bipartisan oversight on the matter, not just from the government.
I firmly believe that there should be an independent body that is monitoring, that has intelligence gathering capabilities.
Independent bodies could lose any
threats are seen or any threats come to light, you inform the Prime Minister, you inform the Minister of National Security.
Somebody has to appoint an independent body. That would be the government. The opposition needs to be involved in this.
Any single independent body in Trinidad and Tobago, understand, any single independent body is always government appointed.
That's why the opposition, that's why in a case like this, the opposition should be a minority member of whatever committee that has access and oversight of everything to do with things like this.
And that is why...
I think that's not a good idea.
And I also believe that this is exactly why...
living in La La Land.
That is why the opposition...
It's not my fault the opposition is deficient, Karen.
That's why, well, I was just about to say that's why the opposition needs to do a lot better in terms of her communications when making these allegations and claims she's an attorney at law. Anyway, folks, WESN now breaks for news on the hour. When we reach in, well, we open up the phone lines this morning. We give you the opportunity to share with us your thoughts. And don't worry, I don't think that our phone lines are bugged. So share with us your comments publicly. Stay tuned.
Seven is out, all day is in. WESN News on the hour.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Don't keep yourself handcuffed. We continue to receive calls from members of the viewing public whose cable provider is Flow and cannot receive WESN. We advise that you unfortunately reside on the original Flow platform. If you wish to receive WESN's high-quality programming, you must contact Flow to be upgraded to the new Flow Evo platform. Call Flow now and demand your upgrade.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11:30 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Burning questions, urgent topics, welcome back to One-on-One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One-on-One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One-on-One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN Content Capital.
I am Rondell Donowa, attorney at law and host of Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Strictly Legal is a legal program geared towards informing you, the public, of your legal rights, responsibilities, and remedies. So be viewing Thursdays 10 a.m. to 10:30 a.m.
In this season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc.
What's Up Doc,
Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
A reminder from WESN. We urge you to protect yourself and others from the spread of COVID-19. Stay safe by taking some simple precautions. Clean your hands often. Use soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Maintain a safe distance from anyone who is coughing or sneezing. Wear a mask. Don't touch your eyes, nose or mouth. Cover your nose and mouth with your bent elbow or a tissue when you cough or sneeze. Stay at home. If you have a fever, cough and difficulty breathing, seek medical attention. Following the above can help us all to help each other.
Welcome back to Talking Point. Let's open up the phone lines now. We give you, the viewers, the opportunity to express your opinion and your thoughts. 623-9376, 622-9338. The numbers are on your screen. Call in and join us. Good morning, caller from Tobago.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Karen, one of my favorite commentators.
Good morning.
I agree with you all this morning on the issue of the so-called monitoring that the government admits to doing. I don't see much difference between the word monitoring and spying, right? That's just, parlance. History is replete with governments that started off seemingly meaning well to protect their citizens by subverting the rights of those citizens to their privacy. It usually follows serious events like 9/11, where Homeland Security now came in and, Americans were all too willing to give up some of those privacy rights in order to feel safe.
Yes.
It's a very slippery slope, and I don't think that citizens should stand still and allow their government to spy on people that they claim are criminals. And as Karen stated, if you are in fact a criminal, has it been proven that you are a criminal? And if it's proven that you're a criminal, why aren't you under arrest?
Yes.
It's a very slippery slope that I don't think that we should permit to happen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller from Tobago. Appreciate your contribution and thoughts. We do have another caller on the line with us from Pissy Valley. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sean and Miss Karen University Sheriff.
Good morning.
Two quick points. Keaton.
Talk to me.
It's just only yesterday the Prime Minister got the report from the TNTech issue.
Yes.
Just yesterday, and you are asking for transparency for him to say just yesterday he got it in his hand. So just hold on a little bit now, please.
No, hey, caller. Yeah. Please don't mistake my stance. I am holding on. Again, we're just looking at all angles, so please don't mistake my stance.
Okay, and two, we are playing politics with sensitive national security issue. Those issues shouldn't be playing out on the political husking. Number one, this technology wasn't just here yesterday or last year. This technology was here since under the UNC government. Them had that same technology. They used it. Karen is quite correct this morning. By law, you could lose the technology without the person knowing in terms of sensitive national security of the country and go in and get a court order to do it. The problem is here is if the government is using it willy-nilly and just using it all over. That is the problem. Not the problem is using it and thing. The problem is what Karen is saying, she's quite correct, is if Kamala Prasad have to give the facts that if they're using it to Tom, Dick and Harry. It's not the problem. I think the FBI use it. Every top country have this technology. So let's stop not playing politics with sensitive political things. Let me do that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Have a nice
caller. I'd just like to briefly correct you. I am not entirely sure that this technology was under the People's Partnership Government. It was first discovered in August 2016. We are aware that the People's Partnership Government was involved in bugging as well.
I think Pegasus has a certain amount of notoriety with it, but we do need to understand it's not the only way. Not just privately available, but there have been capabilities before that. So we need to kind of not be too concerned about what program or how they do it. The point is
it was done.
It was done, and
it is being done.
And we've had the capability even before acquiring this software.
But we do have another caller on the line from Digger Martin. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Mr. Shah, Mr. Small, and Mr. Shearer. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not going to talk about Spygate 3. I want to talk about Landate 3 with Pikal and Mr. Foster. I want to know what was the protocol he used to be given land at the expense of the Caroni workers. I want to know which minister was in the Ministry of Agriculture, if it was Bassant, if it was Clarence. And more importantly, I want to advise the protesters who are basically protesting, and you know the commotion with the UNC activists, to know where to go now to protest, to find out the information. They could go by Pikal, they could go by Vastant, they could go by Clarence and tell us. I mean, this is unfair that he, all of a sudden, was here an employee of Caroni, 1975 Limited, was his family employees of Caroni, 1975 Limited. All right, the other quick question. In Commissioner's inquiry, we have one for the highway, we have one for
we have one for Mosquito Creek, we have one for Paria, we have one for the Port Spain General Hospital.
This is the one I want. I want one for Emailgate for Mr. Keith Rowley to clear his name, because he has all the facts other than the former president who has gone to the great beyond. He has Ken Gordon still alive, all of these things. So I would like him to prove that he wasn't lying. Now is the right time. You have everybody to do that. What you say to that, Karen? Isn't that a brilliant suggestion? Go and have a nice morning.
Well, I wanted to say something. Let me say it, please, Keaton, and then, because I had to write to the papers and ask the Prime Minister to withdraw a statement he made on March 22nd in a public meeting. He said that I said that I called the name of a minister, and I said that I didn't call the name of a minister, that a minister was involved in $1 million illegal lands matter involving state lands, and that is why he removed Clarence Rambarat from his position. So I had to write and say, I don't know what he's talking about. What I only spoke about was what was in the papers and how Clarence Rambarat said that he had given the report to the police commissioner and the Prime Minister. And I believe after 7 years, no complaint with you, in a matter of a few days after you saying that you gave a report to the Prime Minister, suddenly you are tendering your resignation.
Well, Karen,
but
going to
also
see your family when you're still in Trinidad.
Karen, Sean and I were discussing this.
And even creating a position for you.
Clarence Rambarat has indicated that he informed the Prime Minister. He also indicated that he's a witness in over 50 state cases. I would like to know the criminal elements that are being monitored using Pegasus software. Does that include the government employees who were allegedly involved, who are allegedly involved in this land grabbing issue?
The thing is, though, he mentioned it publicly, and now it's within the public sphere. It's an issue now that the public is aware of. So, to be fair, Kamala mentioned it. Now it's in the public sphere, and that is one good that comes out of her claims. But if he did not mention it, then what would have happened to this issue? Would it have stayed hidden, under the bushes of the Ministry of Agriculture?
So then, again, I asked, did Clarence Rambarat really resign? Anyway, we have a caller on the line from Chagonas. Good morning, caller.
No, he did not.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning,
Professor.
I hear one of your previous callers said that Foster Cummins was given Caroni Limited land. I didn't read that report. The report I read said he was in occupation, which is the usual term for when they are squatting. So I don't think you have to worry to continue investigating Clarence Rambarat and how he mismanaged Caroni land. because as Foster Cummins said, he's not the only one, and everybody knew. And he put up a report to the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister said no minister was involved. Right? You know what the bard said? Oh, what a tangle where we weave when we set out to deceive. Any questions, gentlemen?
Well, Professor, I must admit I may have underestimated you a little bit, because I rather like how you were very analytical in, again, the use of the word. Not he wasn't given land. He's occupying lands. I'm rather pleased at that, Professor.
It's an interesting perspective. What if he is squatting? Yes. What if the Minister of Youth Development is squatting on Carney land?
But unlike you, I always precise.
Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good day.
But look at how the situation is unfolding. Yes, you could say there are allegations. We don't know exactly what happened there with regards to Minister Cummings. But the point is, it's now out there. And it just adds more questions, more fuel to the fire. And the way how the whole situation unfolds, to me, it's similar to the Police Service Commission. We're just getting drips and drabs, and it's almost as though the government is trying to control the flow of information, but it can't.
Well, simply put
once it becomes in the public awareness.
Simply put it, SMS is this. As much as we make the argument that the opposition are poor in their communication and they can do a lot better, one can argue that they are doing an excellent job in bringing things to light, which will then in turn directly push the government to give a response.
The irony is, would this be an issue if the whole resignation situation and the radio interview with Clarence Rambarat did not occur?
Well, I mean, that's how the opposition works. That's a former government.
That's what I'm saying. Where was their commentary on the misappropriation of state land before Mr. Rambarat apparently decided to sell out the boats?
We do have another caller on the line with us, a caller from San Juan. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. I'm a full-time caller.
Good morning, welcome.
In 1990, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
If we had proper security to go and know that who was going to take place, right? They will know who was going to take place. So the national security has to have proper things in place to see what taking place in the country.
Well, again, yes, I do. Again, that comment is fair, because when we're not arguing that it's illegal, we were just trying to debate the scope as to which, there's the definition of criminal elements, whether or not you are perceived to be involved in criminal elements or any sort of activity, or whether or not you are assumed in terms of there is evidence to suggest that you are. So that's our debate. But it's a fair comment, call, and I do understand what you're stating. Thank you very much.
And just to say this, that is what the Prime Minister said, because I think he wanted to take the conversation in a certain direction. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the legislation, the reasons are for the national security of the country and the economic well-being of the country. So I don't know, when you say criminal elements, I mean, what does he mean by that? It gives a certain
just hold that thought.
Let me just be
meaning
fair
to that, and I don't think he should have done that.
Let me just be fair and reiterate. It's not as though the Prime Minister could reveal details en masse on what's going on. These things, these things would be secret investigations that you can't just spill out everything.
But we do have a caller on the line with us from Port of Spain. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, good people.
Good morning.
This is perhaps a most interesting period for us. For the society, because it seems as though we will never get an end to corrupt activities in this country. I am not pronouncing on Mr. Cummings. I believe that, like the Marlene McDonald fiasco, will come to naught. But I want to address Mr. Cummings' comments, which is to say, he is bringing, as it were, the issues of race into the discussion. Mm-hmm. And one wonders what is running through the minds of those who now hold office, the question must be asked, are they now saying that because the UNC and the Indians did it, the PNM and the Africans could now do it? And that's the point that I have been pegging my arguments to for a long time, that had Dr. Williams investigated, tried, charged, in the right sequence, investigated, charged, tried, convicted, and incarcerated Privat and O'Halloran, would we have had a culture of corruption in Trinidad and Tobago?
Very interesting, yes.
But I want you to give me an extra 30 seconds.
Go ahead.
The bigger issue, an issue that is larger than the Cummings issue, is that as we speak, I have been keeping my eye on the Wildflower Park piece of land. And I have been advised that the land has been applied for by the gentleman who has been causing us all the grief with that land. And it is now being processed to be turned over to him or to a group of hims. I want to believe that this thing with Rambarat is timely. Because in a sense, I think it covers not only, over long periods of time, we've been talking about squatters and squatterization and thing in this country. The land in Trinidad and Tobago, it looked like it belonged to anybody who could go and fence it around and capture it.
Well,
because when you drive up the North Coast Road, on either side of the road, you're seeing all kind of shacks going up. And in 7 years' time, these people will lay claim to that land because TNTech will give them electricity and WASA will give them water. By whatever means they get it. And that is what this country, let me say it finally again, is not about law, it is not about order. And you could only have order when you have law.
Yes.
So all these issues are law and order issues. If the DPP, I'm asking the question because I don't quite understand on what grounds has this
Caller,
DPP.
That 30 seconds has turned into 2 minutes.
What has this well-schooled DPP said to squash the misbehavior in public office charges against Ms. MacDonald? My own feeling is that is the principal charge.
Yes.
Misbehave in office.
Then the other charges.
The other charges, whether she gave her boyfriend contract or whatever, will hold. So that is another. That's another story. Even though the evidence may suggest that she took a community center out of her own constituency. I rest my case this morning.
Thank you very much.
Everybody should just decide that they want a piece of land, work out where the land is, get chain link wire, fence it around, make sure you have access to a road, get WASA to put water, get TNTech, and we could solve all the housing problems in this country.
Thank you very much, Kolo. Thank you.
I just want to say that the serious charges against Ms. MacDonald have been maintained. The charges of fraud, 6 of the charges have been have remained. And what the caller just said is really true, because I know personally of someone who owns land that has had squatters, and TNTech came on and put up their lights and did not compensate the person. They put up the electricity and so on a person's land to facilitate squatters who are on his land. And I know that as a fact.
And I also do appreciate the point that the caller made in relation to the historical aspect of former Prime Minister and the father of the nation, Dr. Eric Williams, not actually going after John O'Halloran. That is one instance. And too often we look at history and we shy away from it, saying that it's in the past, we should not refer to it. But history is what leads us to where we are, and we have the power, obviously, to chart our way forward and to determine our future. But in using that context of history, I go back to 2015, in which the caller again used the example, or he alluded to the racial division of Indians versus Afro-Trinidadians. And I do remember back in 2015, the infamous comment made by one minister, and that is we time now? You know, so again, very sensitive topic indeed, but why shy away from it?
But more importantly, look at the accusations against certain members of the People's Partnership, right? Not saying all the People's Partnership, but at the end of the day, you don't fire that many cabinet ministers for no reason. It's not willy-nilly, right? You had major controversies. Now, look at this government and the fact that you had to fire a member of cabinet 3 times. 3 times, and she's currently under investigation. You do have to ask, like, what is it that allows these things to exist? And yet the political parties that support these things, whether directly or indirectly, whether spoken or unspoken, continue to just trudge along and nobody kicks up any bit of a fuss about it. Because that is the, yes, we have the situation that happened from Dr. Williams, but look, our parties are operating in this manner still now today.
Well, it seems as though, we do have a call on the line, but it seems as though there is a partnership on the part of the opposition and the government to ensure that they don't go after each other, but there is a PR role to play as well. It does come across like that, doesn't it?
Because the claims never reach criminal.
Yeah, exactly. We do have a call on the line from Dico Martin, our final caller for the morning. Good morning.
Hi all, thanks. Good morning,
Good
Karen.
morning.
Good to see you. I don't care which hump day you all are celebrating. I'm not, but tomorrow is April the 7th. That is World Health Day. So, I just want to let people know that this was established by the WHO in 1950. But this year, because of COVID, increased pollution, and of course the increase in NCDs, the theme is our planet and our health. So governments, which includes us, need to focus on the health and well-being of all, availability of clean air, food and water, and people themselves need to be actually concerned about their own health and that of the planet. Now, right here, we know we've got 20% of the population with diabetes, 25% with heart disease. We had a poor healthcare system before COVID. Now we have to deal with long COVID. What worries me is I don't know if we're going to implement the multiple recommendations from the inquiry, just as you all were talking about, when are things implemented. People have an indifferent attitude towards their health.
Yes.
Children who are now on Easter vacation, the sweetened beverages and unhealthy snacks and food that they're being fed, child obesity has increased. And if COVID has taught us one lesson, is that more parents and grandparents could have been alive today had the situation been different, if people were healthier. I mean, I don't know if people have even stopped to think of that. And just to touch on the pain of the war, again, it's excruciating. They've entered a new phase where people are being bound, held captive, and execution style. I mean, I just do not know. So that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, caller. Have a good day. I
expect new sanctions, expect more economic consequences.
And in relation to health, I'm absolutely proud that you pointed out that people here in Trinidad and Tobago are different in terms of their health. I mean, yes, throughout the 2 years, we have constantly chastised the government for things that they could have done better in terms of COVID-19. They did a fair job. I'm not arguing against that. But the point I'm trying to make is how much have we helped ourselves? Long ago, people used to live until a very rosy age, until they're in their mid to late 80s, close to 100. That was the case. And often it was because of their diet. They ate a lot more natural, healthier foods. In today's age, we eat a lot more processed fast food. And that has led to NCDs, which of course has shortened all of our lifespans. And I get it. I enjoy a Royal Castle as much as the other individual. I enjoy a burger as much as the other individual. But at the same time...
Since they got their pepper sauce back, right?
Yes, Karen. But I'm pointing it out. We too can help ourselves very, very much. But folks, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much to all our callers for their contribution this morning. That's where we wrap things up. And as always, it's been a pleasure being joined by my co-host, colleague, my good friend, Mr. Sean Michael Small. A very good conversation, and we always thank you for your contribution.
Yes, and let me add to what you just said quickly. I always, since a young adult, knew that I had high blood pressure every time that it was tested. Not too high, and then COVID came, and I didn't think about it. Only now, at the end tail of the pandemic, to find out that I, at the age of 38, might be suffering from significantly high blood pressure. Even now, I have a machine that's been monitoring me for the last 24 hours as my doctors decide to tell me what is the best course of action. I say all this to warn people. Listen, don't take it for granted that you're healthy, number one, because I didn't know. I didn't monitor these things. Who would have thought? And number two, prevention is a lot cheaper than the cure. This is something that the pandemic has taught us, not just for COVID, but also for NCDs. So monitor your health and spend that money now, because you don't want to have to do the major expenditures down the line if you don't.
Karen, Karen, thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you, and as always, it's a pleasure for me to be there with both of you. A good show, and see you again next week, I believe Wednesday.
Yes.
And have a good hump day.
We will, Karen. Thank you. Folks, as pointed out by my co-host and colleague, he is, unfortunately, he has been experiencing some difficulties, but he has never shied away from the camera. He's been with us, and we only ask that you keep him in your thoughts as we push positivity his way. He is monitoring the situation, and he's keeping healthy, but my good friend, he's very strong. He has a strong heart, and he will continue to push on. That's why I point out it's always a pleasure having him alongside me.
And it's always a good day to have a good day.
Stop stealing my line. That is my line. Remember, today is a good day to have a good day. This has been Talking Points on WESN, the Content Capital. Mr. Sean Michael Small and myself, Keith Shaw. Well, we'll see you again tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.